Welcome to the AI Security Update, hosted by Dr. Anmol Agarwal, where we break down the latest in AI and security with experts on the front lines, focused on what you need to know without the hype. Welcome to the AI Security Update, where we discuss the latest in AI and security. Today, I'm excited to introduce our guest, Angela Saccone. Welcome to the show, Angie.
Hey everybody, long time no see. With Amo, I know Amo for about a few years now. Amazing person. Also, she was on my podcast too back then. And I am right now in the vulnerability management space. And I also enjoy looking at AI too. I call myself an AI security enthusiast. Um, Yeah, I like looking at different types of like agents, looking at the vulnerabilities of that, of course, for fun. And I've also made some cybersecurity challenges too for about 2 years, and some of them did include artificial intelligence with security. Yep.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. So the show is not just AI and it's not just security, it's kind of an intro of both. So, Angie, you're coming from a vulnerability management background. And I think so far in the show, no one has really talked about vulnerability management, what it is, what it entails. So, could you explain a little bit more about what vulnerability management is?
When I think of vulnerability management, I think of literally what it says, like you're managing the vulnerabilities, but it's a little bit deeper than that. It's technical, but it also involves soft skills too. So, you'll look at, for example, applications of all sorts of types. And you're looking for different bugs or vulnerabilities, um, aka security flaws in these applications, and you're documenting it, you're making a report. I feel like it's very similar to pen testing, but there's more reconnaissance involved. Like the cycles are very similar where you do the recon and whatnot, but you're not doing any like manual exploitation, but you can look at different things from different angles, and it involves a lot of like customer service too, in my personal opinion. And yeah, making sure that the information is, I would say, making sure the information is not um, as vulnerable as it was before, because it goes through a process. You'll be working with different teams and whatnot in cyber. So it's pretty intense, but I think it's still doable, even for those who are looking for entry level or above. And you can come from different backgrounds. Prior to VM, I also did a little bit of cloud security. So that experience was able to be, meshed a little well, and since there was AI involved in as well as just analyzing applications but from the cloud/DevOps side. So yeah.
So just so I add some explanation to that, right? So you mentioned recon. So in cybersecurity, we have something called reconnaissance where we try to discover what's happening. We didn't talk about pen testing, but a pen testing perspective will come in the future. So stay tuned for that. And Angie, you mentioned cloud and AI. So the main thing is that vulnerability management or cybersecurity, that's also an important skill set that you can apply to AI security. So that's why we're talking about both AI and security.
Yep.
Um,
Uh, I
Go
also
ahead.
want I also want to make a disclaimer that I liked like the processes of VM before ever doing anything with VM. So want to make
Vulnerability
a disclaimer
management.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any specific cloud security considerations or concepts that you want to explain to our audience?
Let's see. I like talking about like I would say privileges or identity and access management. That's a pretty good one. practicing, least privilege, giving the right access to what's needed. Because I know in cloud or cloud security, you'll be working with different teams and they need only a certain amount of access, including applications too, like AI applications. You shouldn't give too much power to certain applications, especially with AI. Like, I don't know if folks here read about the OpenClaw AI. What's happened with that, where there was just too much access involved and it's just started going nuts.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's a current event. I think maybe not everyone has heard about it.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm gonna summarize it. Pretty much, I think it was a security and I think it was like a security engineer or somebody, a professional, like I can't remember the actual person or the role, but it was, I'm going to say cybersecurity professional because I can't remember the role on the top of my head. That was, oh, now I know what it is. It was a security researcher. A cybersecurity researcher was analyzing this AI application called OpenClaw AI, and they were trying to, I think, mess with the emails, trying to see what was gonna happen, but it did more than what it was supposed to do because there was no least privilege. And then it just started spitting out different things that it was not supposed to do. Like, I think there was some data leakage from the emails and whatnot, and it was not listening to the security researcher from what I've read online, and it was just getting really bad. So
I
it's not funny,
saw
but
this
it's just
post.
amazing with how much, access there is involved that was not checked prior to that, and I think they were experimenting, and they even told the AI, it's like, "Hey, you went out of bounds," and then it admitted, it's like, "Yeah, I went out of bounds."
I saw this post because after this story came out, a lot of people were playing around with it. And there was this post, I forget from which company, but it was a high level person at, I think, NVIDIA or some other company, and she was posting how she used this bot and she said, like, "Do this with my email." And then the bot just started deleting all of her emails, deleting the entire database, and she was like, "No, stop doing that." And it would just keep deleting the emails
Yeah,
instead of listening to her command. So,
yeah,
like, that's kind of what you're talking about, Angie, is like the chat bot didn't even listen. It's like,
no,
it just does whatever it wants.
because it had nothing to stop it. There was no least privilege at all, no restriction to that model. It just did its own thing. That's not good. And I wouldn't recommend personally downloading that on your personal computer until they at least add more restrictions to it and whatnot. But be cautious, folks.
Yeah, that's when you need to install like a VM, a virtual machine. If you
Yeah.
really want to play around with something, try to create a virtual machine, like virtual environment, sandboxed environment, so that you play around with stuff without it impacting your actual device or your actual files. Because it would be terrible if like all of your files and everything is gone. Like that would be so bad.
Yeah. That would, and that's worse than, I mean, email leakage or data leakage is not good, but it could be worse. I'm gonna be honest. That was emails. That could have been way worse. And if there's any sensitive information in those emails, like credit card information, medical data, security credentials, oh my goodness. I wouldn't hope that would happen, but people will send anything nowadays online. It's crazy. Financial information, confidential business data. Oh my, yeah. You don't want to trust a bot with that. Um, at least in the early stages, definitely not. No. It needs to go through a lot of testing.
Yeah. And we see like all of these startups are talking about agentic AI, like autonomous AI agents. Like this AI agent is amazing. It will do all these things for you.
Hmm.
But you need to be cautious when you do that, when you use an agentic AI program or product. Do you have any other thoughts on autonomous agentic AI?
I do. Um, I would say that again, I mean, I go back to the least privilege part and also on the application security side of things, like look at your files, environment files or the .env files because those are not always secure. And I feel like a lot of folks who are either vibe coding developers or traditional developers these days, they don't always double check that part when they're making the application, and then when it goes to being reviewed by cybersecurity professionals and whatnot, there's gonna be a lot of vulnerabilities on there. And folks think, oh, if I just launch it today, it'll be fine. And what's scary is that there's a lot of folks now that can make these chatbots, right? They can make these autonomous systems on their own, these applications on their own, and they just sell it online. And not everybody has a technical background that sells them. They're they're just like, I'm gonna make a profit off of this, and that's for the people who buy it. That's their problem. So that's pretty bad too. When you're transferring that power without having that checked out first, until there's like a huge data breach with that. And
Yeah,
I
we
yeah
everyone's talking about vibe coding, and it's just you use AI to code for you. But then the problem is if you don't understand like what goes into coding and you don't understand like, oh, this might be a security vulnerability and you ship that in your product, then it's a nightmare when you sell it and then your customer uses it and then bad things happen.
yeah
So it's good to experiment with it, but then be cautious before you sell something.
yeah. There's a lot of hype with selling a lot of AI agents online. And I get people want to make money. I get we're in harder times and AI is like the buzzword that's been going around, especially with businesses, small businesses, or even at the enterprise level. Like, Fortune 500 companies. Everyone seems to be selling AI of some sort these days, but how many of these organizations are actually thoroughly looking through these AI agents, from a security perspective? And I get that, AI security can be pretty expensive. I've seen some roles online where I think it was like almost $1 million or something, where they had an AI security role because it's really important. But it's not always the case, right? It depends on your skill level and where you're coming from. I don't think that was entry level, but yeah, it's important to have AI security professionals and also even folks who are not in the AI security space. Like we got people from governance as well. And I feel like that's a really good role to be in these days because AI is changing and laws are changing and compliance is really important.
So, Angie, I want to go back to some of what you said earlier. So, one thing is like software developers and security. Software developers, they need to understand the security implications of what they're developing and what they're coding. You mentioned like the env files, that's something developers should check. Could you
Mhm.
just walk through with an example of what you mean by that for those of our listeners who might not be in the tech space like us?
So pretty much I'm going to put this as simple as I can because again, I know this is for everybody, right? So you're looking at a file that is made in code. And it's not always going to be the most secure like lines of code that you'll see or a script. Um, and essentially in this case, in this scenario, it would be for like example, an AI agent that would be used to help create the agent or the bot. It pretty much helps create the bot, and you use different um, folks to help build the bot. Like you got the DevOps people that usually handle these files, these computer files that are made of code to help, sustain that bot. But they also use AI workflows or processes too to help make the AI agent work. Like you need the thing that people don't understand is that AI can't work without people. You still need people. So for those who are like, oh, AI is gonna replace my job, for example, it's not. I feel like those who know how to use AI are still gonna be um in the still gonna keep their job, as well as those who are, example, creating the AI or the even with the ENV files, or even those who are in different parts of cybersecurity, like with governance and whatnot. I know I keep going back to that, but there's like a whole process to make an application, especially an AI agent, that it looks simple, but it's not as simple. But yeah, that's
Yeah, a lot of moving parts, a lot of different people working together.
mhm.
So I remember when I was a developer and this was before AI. So I was a developer and then we had a security team and it was an agile development environment, right? So as developers, we were pushing out code every week or two and we were trying to hit our deadlines, our targets. But then the security team was like, wait a minute, like be secure, like do all these things for security. Like, for example, when you're pushing code to Git or GitHub, and that's just a tool we use in software development to keep track of the versions of our code. Security was saying, like, make sure that when you do that, we know who is actually creating the code, who is actually pushing those changes, and also making sure no security issues were happening. As a developer, sometimes we would have to have unit tests. And these unit tests, sometimes we would have to put in like fake password or fake login, you know? And the security team was like, wait, don't put password in there. Don't put a login in there. And and as a developer, we were saying, we need to do that to unit test our application, to test our application, because whenever you program something, you also have testing involved. So I think it's both ways, right? Software
Mhm.
developers need to know about security, and also security needs to understand the development process.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's different stages of the software development life cycle.
And Angie, you mentioned governance, so maybe we should go back to governance. So
Yeah.
we have a lot of governance people. There have been some governance people who have come on the show before, and they've talked about like governance, some of the laws related to privacy. But from your perspective, what are some considerations that people need to have related to AI governance?
It's a really good question. Uh, so when I think about that, it's important to make sure, like I said, things are compliant, things are, legally like acceptable in the application before launching it for or deploying it for the world to see. And also making sure that you have the right people managing that, like the right um stakeholders, the right security professionals, the right developers, and anybody else in on the business side of things, making sure it's not in the wrong hands. Um, the right policies too. That's what I mean by like all these things I was talking about, sanitization and making sure that nothing's leaked, that everything is robust or secure and it's auditable.
Yeah, I think we all need to learn about governance now. That's a big thing that
Mhm.
people are talking about. And that's the challenge we have in this field. It's not just one thing, it's so many different things. And we all have to work together and communicate with each other. So Angie, another question I have for you is there another current event you can think of tied to vulnerability management?
A lot of different things, a lot of different things. On the top of my head, there's a lot that's going on at the moment, especially with what's going on like overseas. There's a lot of cyber attacks going on, so it's really important to catch up with the cybersecurity news of what's going on overseas. It's good to know what's happening around you. Even on the political side, I'm not going to get into politics or things, but There's a lot of different cyber attacks going around, and I get news daily from Sans newsletter, and also I like looking up videos on YouTube and also looking at blogs and things. But yeah, there's a lot of different attacks, and I feel like people are using more and more. Like when I mean people, I mean cyber attackers are using more and more different types of cyber attacks, which is more common these days.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, we're not gonna go into politics in this show because that's
No,
not this show.
no.
But from a technical perspective, just keeping it high level, we're seeing, AI is still being used as an attack, which we've talked about in previous episodes. But we're seeing that these attacks keep evolving, and we're seeing that these different nations are using AI to attack other nations or other corporations. And so now AI is a tool that's helping them create propaganda.
Yep.
They use that on social media. Is helping them with attacking things. It's
Mhm.
helping them coordinate attacks. So they are using AI to help them. And in the past, AI wasn't as advanced, right? Like we all remember the like really unconvincing AI images or AI deepfakes, which were very obvious. And now they're much more lifelike and sophisticated, and we have talked about these techniques in more detail in previous episodes. So I recommend looking at some of our previous episodes if you want to know exactly how deepfakes work. But Angie, you're highlighting that we see it's constantly moving and it's constantly being used. And that's why we need to stay up to date with what's happening.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, like, if I were to list one thing, I feel like I would think about a million different things because there are many new types of cyber attacks these days, and now I think they're, like, what, AI security tools are on the pen testing side where even script kiddies now can say, "Hey, I can do a pen test with, for example, Claude or some other, AI tool out there," which is insane to think about compared to, like, traditional pen testing or application security
Yeah,
techniques. Yeah.
traditionally, you would have to learn, like, here's how you find vulnerabilities in applications, and people would manually go through the application, try out different things using different tools. And now with AI, there are AI tools that actually do the pen testing for you. I don't want to mention any names,
Yeah.
but there is one tool where they actually did better than human pen testers. So
Yeah.
we have these cybersecurity hacking, what do we call them, Angie? Competitions or CTFs?
Yeah, cybersecurity competitions or capture the flags. Mhm.
Yeah. And basically we saw that an AI did better than a human when it came to these competitions. So the AI was able to find patterns and use that pattern recognition to be better pen testers than a human that was an expert in that field. You still need to understand the fundamentals, I think, because sometimes AI gets it wrong. And
Yeah.
if you don't know what's happening, then you won't figure out what's going wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's you still need to know, for example, what OWASP top 10 is and how to, like, mitigate or prevent, um, the attacks. For example, with AI, since we're on a AI security podcast, I'm using that as an example. Um, you still need to know, like, what, cybersecurity is, like, what is the CIA triad, the confidentiality, integrity, and availability, like, what that is, the bread and butter, in my opinion, of cybersecurity, making sure that things are secure at all 3 levels of that triad, the triangle. Even understanding things from, I would say, the security like, the cyber defense side too. I know I mentioned a lot of, like, the offensive security side today, but also the cyber defense side as well, like security operations,
Do you
SOC.
go more into the cyber defense side?
Sure. I think even though people are like, "Oh, like the security operations center analyst or a SOC analyst, are gonna go away because because the rise of like AI, it's like, oh, the AI can do possibly better than a SOC analyst. But I think no, I feel like they're gonna work together instead of being apart because when there's so many like cybersecurity alerts that are going across the network, guess who's up? It's not the AI, it's the SOC analyst. They're up looking at these alerts. They're trying to help either prevent or mitigate those alerts, and they're they're literally looking out for us a lot. I know some folks in the area. I also think like of like incident response. That's really huge. That's very. I don't think there's any dull moments in incident response from what I've heard. Um, Sleep, you'll get it, but you're gonna be looking at a lot of different like logs, a lot of different things, vulnerabilities, and like, how to secure that. There's a lot of different policies, a lot of different methods, and it goes back to even using your soft skills because you'll be talking to people. It's like, hey, why are you doing X, Y, and Z on your computer? Like, let's do it in a more secure way. you know? Yeah.
And so that's an interesting perspective because some other people on my show, they were saying how AI agents will replace the SOC analyst because they don't feel any fatigue.
hmm
But what your argument is, no, we still need the SOC analyst, right?
Yes. And they can learn AI, and I feel like it can work together. I mean, my argument is that AI can only do so much for so long without people. I feel like they have to be together in order for that to be more creative and better over time. Otherwise, we might go back to those times where it's very like how the AI first was, where it had like what 10 fingers.
Yeah, I used to always say, like, you can spot a deep fake because they have like 10 fingers or 6 fingers. Now
Yeah,
it's not as true, but like even like a year ago or 2 years ago, it was still true that you could see it like 6 fingers.
yeah, yeah. Or the eyes are messed up, or whenever they're smiling, you could see the teeth all messed up. But now it's really hard to tell. And I feel like people are using, what was it, Python now to make their own little
Python.
AI bot or AI agent where it's like a deep fake and it can be any like person that they want to be, which I think is creepy. It's really creepy for sure. But it's just interesting how like people are just straight up sharing, oh, this is how you can make like especially on social media, like a deep fake using Python. And people will just jump in. They'll jump in on it and not think about what we are talking earlier, like how insecure that code is. And everybody's using that insecure code. And then there's a cybersecurity attack that happens. I think GitHub too had a cybersecurity incident recently where there were a lot of repos involved. And they used, I don't know if it was AI related, but it was pretty bad. And, if like that one tutorial I was explaining or that one social media post, if everybody like downloaded that file from that GitHub repo and they're like, yeah, I trust that this information's great. It's secure. No, it's not. It's been exposed. Yeah. A lot of data leaks. hmm
Yeah. Yeah, because these startups, they just want to innovate fast and break things. And
Yeah.
you don't want to break things when it comes to security. So
hmm
we definitely still need security alongside AI for
Yep.
sure.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I don't believe we're going to be replaced that easily. I mean, not at least in this season of time. Um,
Yeah, I think AI can help, with some things. Like maybe it can see patterns we miss, but then maybe it sees a pattern that isn't there. And that's another thing that I talk about is like you can attack AI to see stuff that's not there. Like imagine if
right.
you have that for your security camera and you just like you trick it, right? Like
hmm
the standard like the bank robbers, they wear masks. So
Right.
like you can't see them, you see a mask instead. And imagine if you just have AI doing all of the security for you, then it's like a person would easily be able to see that's a mask, but then the
Yeah,
AI might not.
right. Or if it's like if somebody puts a cat in front of it, like, "Oh, what is that? I don't know what that cat is," for example. Uh, I had to put that out there, people of how you can trick the AI. Yeah.
Yeah. Angie, any other insight on vulnerability management, how it works for our audience? Any key concepts or terms that you think would help them understand?
For cyber in general, like, I know a lot of people wanna get into this field, and it's very popular nowadays in 2026. So I can say it from, like, a general overview. I think, um if you wanna get into cybersecurity, like, for example, on the cyber defense side or offensive security side, or maybe something in between, where you wanna work with different people, I think it's good to know about I think this is underrated actually, like Wireshark. It's a network protocol analyzing tool. I think that's really good because if you know networking, I feel like that will help you open a lot of doors. I also like CTFs or the cybersecurity competitions because it will expose you to different cybersecurity concepts, even though a lot of them are either offensive security and sometimes defensive security. It helps you think a lot faster because you're not given like a lot of time to make decisions. You're going to have to learn quicker by researching what these example vulnerabilities are and either in some ways to mitigate or prevent it or figure out how to go even deeper or like I was saying earlier, dig deeper with the reconnaissance, looking for more information. Um, for educational purposes, want to put that out there. Let me see. Also, I think blogs help too because like if you're reading about blogs or making your own blogs, like sharing about what you've learned, whether it's within AI security or VM or cyber defense or anything between, really, I think that really helps you stand out because not many people want to do it. And if you write yourself, it's really good. You could say this is not written by AI. I feel like it gives some more credibility. And also, like, don't be afraid to start new things. I feel like that's really, really important. Even when you're nervous, just do it. I feel like this community is very acceptable, and we're all willing to learn. Like, we're still learning about what VM is or what AI security is or cyber defense is to this day. It's evolving constantly. So, yeah.
Yeah, great point. And this is something I tell my mentees all the time. They think that they don't have anything to share because it's
Mhm.
already been done. But I always say just start and just share something that you are interested in or you're passionate about. Even if you think like 20 other people have talked about the exact same thing, it doesn't matter. You have your own unique perspective and your own way of looking at things. And sometimes you just have to start.
Yeah, exactly. I just had to put some things in there that I wish somebody would tell me.
Another question I have is so just pick a security concept because you're coming from vulnerability management and then use an everyday scenario to explain it and how it works.
Okay. Well, this concept can I feel like again apply to a lot. I think it goes with compliance. It goes with compliance because it's really important to check things constantly to make sure that things are compliant, things are, you get the green check for things as opposed to just like I said earlier, to um otherwise other than how should I say it? Deploying or making it accessible to the world to see. Um so everyday concept with that. I would think of maybe like buying a house, for example. you know? Like you want to make sure you're inspecting that house before you buy it. Like, get an inspector, inspect it yourself, like, ask enough questions, doing some recon, um, make sure that it's not a fake, like, it's not a, what do you call it, like a catfish house, that you see online, and then you gotta go in person and verify that. Yeah, verification, it's really important. Double checking everything, your steps. I think that's a big part, making sure that you're verifying everything. Verify before you trust, zero trust. That's what I would go with. That's very like,
Zero
yeah,
trust is another concept we keep talking about in
yeah.
cybersecurity. So it's like, don't trust anything. You keep verifying like every step. It's like, oh,
Hmm.
you want to log into the application? Prove who you are. And
Yeah.
when you want to do something, okay, again, prove who you are. Like, we don't want to implicitly trust anything because imagine just trusting an AI agent. Like, that's disaster. So,
Yeah, for
zero
sure.
trust is another thing. And I think people are talking about AI security and zero trust and combining the two as well.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. If you just blindly, like I said, trust that AI agent to, I don't know, give you like a recipe of how to make chocolate chip cookies from scratch, and then you get something of like, I don't know, how to make dog food or something completely different. Like, yeah, you need to prepare, the ingredients and whatnot, but it it might give you the ingredients correctly at first, but to make chocolate chip cookies, you don't need, the ingredients for dog food. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, great, great example. And I also really love the house example, or even like apartments. There's so many times you try to get an apartment and
Mhm.
then you find out the apartment doesn't exist. Or
Yeah.
when you try to get an Airbnb, when
Mhm.
you're traveling and you're getting an Airbnb, like verify that it is a legit place to stay and not just a fake property.
Yeah.
That's another thing too.
Mhm. For sure. Yeah. I've I've actually seen, what was it, a YouTube video of somebody online, they just bought the apartment without even stepping 1 foot in the door, and then they're like, "Oh my goodness, what is this?" And I just think to myself from a security perspective, I'm like, "What did you do? What did you get yourself into?" Like, what if it was not a safe neighborhood, for example? Or, like, what if things that you bought inside there, I know sometimes, realtors can make deals where you can have furniture in there. It's like, what if that's not working? What if everything in that apartment's not functional? Like, what if it's not as cleanly as you thought it'd be, for example? You know, a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of things that can go wrong.
And, sometimes you don't have a choice
Yeah.
because I remember in college when I had like dorms and apartments, they were just like, here you go. You're going to stay here now. And I couldn't choose. And
Yeah.
then I get there and I find out, oh, what is this place? Like everything's broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, but that's like a different story in some ways because, at least it was a real apartment as opposed to being in like another neighborhood and you're not in school and you're like just looking around and then you just trust it. It's just, I think it's wild that how common that is where people just buy an apartment or a house and they're like, yep, I'm just going to go here because maybe I like the location or I just like how it looked online. And they're like, that's the one. I'm like, no, 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 you need to think a few steps back.
It's like an amazing price. And then it's like, wait, that's too good to be true.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Zero trust.
zero trust. It applies to all aspects of life,
Yes, it
including AI
does.
security.
Yes, it does, for sure. Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, Angie, do you have any other resources you recommend for listeners to learn more?
Okay, I'm gonna say it from a general, like, cybersecurity one. Like I said earlier, it's really important to stay up to date with the cybersecurity news, what's happening. Oh, maybe even in your area or around the world. Um, and it also helps you understand how cybersecurity works. So it's not like just reading it from, example, a textbook, or you're just like, okay, let me just figure out by reading random, I don't know, content online. I feel like it's good to read something that's credible, like Sans, for example, on a newsletter, or I would say even, let me see. There's different, if you're into like different areas of cybersecurity, maybe the offensive side or the defensive side. I know there's a new CTF platform that I saw recently. It was called threathuntinglabs.com. Um, that they have a free version too. It's not just all paid, just making a disclaimer and not sponsored. Um, that one's good, as well as I'm actually a part of a Discord that I recently merged with. It's called the Ginger Hacker Initiative. So that's a really good Discord to join. And it's really meant for like those who are either in the field or trying to break in the field. So all are welcome. Shout out to them. Again, not sponsored, but yeah, from what I remember, it's a nonprofit that helps people want to get into cyber. There's mentorship there and lots of great things there as well. Yeah. I also do make blogs too from time to time from Medium. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a lot of really great resources as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Angie, anything else you would like to add before we end the episode?
Sure. I think it's really important to be like unapologetically you. Like, don't be afraid to shine in this space. Like, don't be afraid to put your content out there. Don't be afraid to meet new people. Like, learn from this. In some ways, this is kind of like a what I would call this, like a networking event of some sort. I know we've met each other in the past, but people don't probably know who I am. And so this is like a great way to get to know people. I also recommend going to cybersecurity conferences if you can, or even online virtual events. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Angie. So this concludes our show. We'll be back next time with more great conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the AI Security Update. No hype, just what you need to know. Subscribe to catch the latest episodes and connect with me, Dr. Anmol, on LinkedIn for more insights from the world of AI security. We'll see you next time.